It has recently come to my attention that Passionflix has ventured into a new lane. Passionflix, maker of shittily, crappily done movie adaptations of popular romantic books, has ventured into making mini-series. Vampire erotica mini-series. It's not it's Passionflix. Yeah, there you go. And I watched it because it looks so bad. Spoiler, I just lost a nail. What the that's what I get for trying to be pretty. I should have just came out here crusty and bald-headed the way God made me. Actually, I'm not bald-headed. I just cut all my hair off. Not that you asked, but my short pixie is in a very weird stage right now. And it's kind of giving 16-year-old Latino skater boy, which is not a read. It just wasn't originally what I was going for. I'm still figuring it out. It's a learning curve every day. Passionflix has made a new series, vampire-focused, called Dagger Brotherhood. An adaptation from a popular vampire series that came out around the time of Twilight, basically when vampires were all over the place. I may have read one of these books. I don't remember. They all blend together, especially from this time period. But yes, this is Passionflix, as far as I'm aware, first jump into serialized supernatural romance. I've spoken before in the past about their ventures into supernatural romance, particularly Wicked and Torn. I've done 2 videos on those. I will link that somewhere. You can watch it after this. But today we're talking about a mini-series. And if it's not their first mini-series, it's the first one I've covered on my channel, certainly. It's a 6-part series. I'm going to talk about the first 3 episodes today and then come back in a few days and I'll get to the second part. Because I could sit here for 3 hours talking about this show, but I think I need a break and I think you do too. And I'll come back with episode 4 through 6 in a few days, so you shouldn't have to wait too long. The story follows a, checks notes, 25-year-old woman. My ass. It's okay to be 32. It's okay for a character to be swept into supernatural phenomenons and be 32. Like, bitch named Beth, who is swept into a wild world of vampire warfare when she discovers she is a half-breed. She is to be protected by a vampire that looks suspiciously like Tommy Wiseau from The Room. It's not him. I don't think it was who they were going for, but it's who they got. His name is Wrath. Okay. And he is a part of a secret brotherhood of very strong vampires that are entrusted with her protection, as well as fighting against another breed of vampires that are there to kill them. It's a war between 2 types of vampires. It's the light vampires and the dark vampires. Wrath is sent to protect Bella, and of course they fall in love. They start spoiler, way quicker than I thought they would have. They didn't let that build up at all. And yeah, it's bad. Kind of in the same sort of nostalgic way that I was talking about last time when we were talking about War of the Worlds, and that it was crappy in like a way that feels like a time of long ago, maybe like 2011. Oh, 14 years now. I'm 25. Actually. Bitch, if she can lie, so can I. It's bad in like a nostalgic way. It kind of looks like something poorly thrown together on Sci-Fi Network or CW, but they let them be topless. And I'm pretty sure I saw some shaft. I don't know if that was intentional, if they accidentally left the shaft in, but I saw it as I was looking for it. This isn't Passionflix. Anyway, so that's what we're doing today. But first, of course, we got to pay some bills. So send it over to AdRoll Kenny. Thank you. Hello everyone, it's AdRoll Kenny. And today's video is sponsored by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit delivery service that offers fresh, delicious, healthy meals delivered straight to the comfort of your own home, pre-portioned, pre-shopped for, pre-thought out, and sent to your door. You don't have to go to a grocery store today because dinner is from HelloFresh. Whether you're new to cooking or you're a pro, HelloFresh is a great way to get out of recipe ruts, try out new and interesting flavors, and get a meal on the table in about 30 minutes. Often less than that, especially if you start to know the cheat codes, like putting things in an air fryer when they say to put it in the oven. I have some meals from HelloFresh that are my go-tos that I love every time. I really like the firecracker meatballs, pretty much every taco, but especially when it's like a fusion taco, like a banh mi taco. Oh, I love the mushroom creamy pasta. It's almost soup season. The soups bust. I've had little personal meatloaves that bust. Anything with a mushroom sauce. It's just good. I don't know what you want me to say. It's fire. So if you would like to check out HelloFresh, go to HelloFresh.com and use code KennieFM for 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life. That's 1 free item per box. Would you like to help Russet? That's 1 free item per box during the life of the subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. Big thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery, baby. Episode 1. The story begins abruptly with a woman soldering her own titties with a steel saw. She got steel titties. She got a spinning saw on her titties. Does it mean anything? No, it's just to let you know that we are in an edgy leather and whips and chains bar. But it's a vibe maker. Think of it that way. It's a dark club where all the vampires and vampire adjacents, vampire f***ers come to have parties and give excruciatingly not subtle expositional dialogue. This is where we meet Darius. Darius has a daughter, a half-breed, a half-human by the name of Beth, whom he has been looking over for the last 25 years. Being that the war with the other vampires is getting exponentially more dangerous, he has decided to entrust her to another vampire to take care of her as his ward. Beth, as we will learn, has lived her entire life not knowing either of her parents. After her mother died giving birth, she was put immediately into the system. But now, at the ripe age of 25, she is actually a pretty successful journalist. Good for her. But what she doesn't know is that around 25 is when she is going to undergo a change. Basically, she will transition into a vampire. During the change, her body will go through immense stress that could kill her, but the only thing that can probably keep her okay is ingesting good quality, pure, strong vampire blood that will keep her strong throughout the transition. Darius is looking to entrust Beth to Wrath, kind of king of the vampires, though he's begrudgingly so. He doesn't like the term and he doesn't necessarily live as a king. Speaking of Wrath, he has an entrance. It's so bad. It's so bad. You can smell the shit, smell the fart on your tongue. Ugh. It's all of it. It's the slow motion, the pan in, the random somebody smoking a cigarette, the widow's peak wig with no part, the disconcertingly, weirdly hot Passionflix'S handsome Squidward ass face. And he's standing there in those ugly sunglasses and all the leather, and it's great. It's awesome. Wrath doesn't seem to want the job of protection for this person and basically declines the offer and goes out to fight their vampire enemies for the night. As we will learn, the vampire enemies are called lessers, and they are essentially pale vampires, like pale hair, pale eye vampires. They wear white or light colors a lot. But most importantly, they present opportunities to poorly and overly use shitty CGI and really bad corny fight choreography. It's such a rush to the senses because there's a part where they really want you to see the Black Dagger, right? The Black Dagger Brotherhood. Really long scene of him throwing a dagger up. It's staying in slow motion. You see it in midair, and then he grabs it and stabs him. You didn't have to do all that, but yes, you did, because we got the budget this time, ho. Beth, as far as we know, has a pretty normal life, except that she's having a few changes in appetite recently. She's getting very, very hungry, and her teeth are kind of sore. But other than that, her life is pretty normal as a journalist. The thing that's probably most frustrating for her these days, though, it seems like every man she runs into is kind of a rapist, either overtly or has the vibe, you know? Her boss is creepy. She ends up getting attacked by 2 frat boys on her way home this night. They are attempted rapists, and they grab her into an alleyway. And this entire scene is very disturbing, not just because it's an attempted assault scene, but because it's filmed in a way that has this vibe that it's not entirely supposed to be bad. To be honest, it's filmed more like a non-con scene or a CNC scene, more so than like an assault scene, which is what it is canonically or diegetically. Like they focus in on her wrists above her head and like the ripping of her shirt off. It feels very bodice ripper and it's gross. Eventually she's able to break away from them by getting him in the nose somehow and maybe hitting him in the balls. This attempted rapist gets so dejected that she hit him that he calls the police on her. Can't believe what she did to me. Oh my God. Back to the vampires. Darius gets blown up. Like that. Somebody put a bomb in his car, he went boom. Which is interesting considering apparently it's quite hard to kill vampires that are a part of this brotherhood thing. They're like very strong. Like sometimes stabbing works, but sometimes a shot in the neck doesn't. So I don't know, but apparently this time getting blown up kills him. The police end up at the scene of the explosion, which is where we meet Jose, who is sexy and doesn't show up enough for my liking. He calls traumatized Beth and he's like, hey, if you want to get a first look at this crime scene that we just saw, you know, maybe you might want to head over. But she declines because, you know, she just got attacked. But eventually she does decide to come out anyway to see the crime scene. There, she is accosted by another man. This man is a dude named O'Neill, whose nickname is Butch, so I'm gonna call him Butch. Butch likes her. He's not very subtle about it, but he's also really pushy and creepy. So when he sees that she has a mark on her face from the attack, he like pushes her against the wall and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, bitch, she just got attacked. Though you don't know that, back the up. You shouldn't be pushing up on people like that anyway. And the way that she's able to get him off of her is being like, if you don't back up, I'm gonna do an expose on how you are a police brutalist, bitch, which he is apparently. But I guess that's supposed to be a charming thing about him as the story goes along because he fights for people he loves. He's a protector. That. But anyway, she's there on the scene. She ends up noticing a ninja throwing star at the scene of the crime and eventually goes back home after being accosted thrice in the last like hour and a half by men. After hearing of Darius's death, Wrath reluctantly accepts the proposal to take Beth under his protection. He also chats with his brothers about Darius's death, and each of his brothers have stupid names. They're real words, they just spell them wrong. It's Torment, Vicious, I will spell it the way that it's spelled, Rage, Fury with a PH, and Sadist with a Z. They're just spelled weird. Assume they add a random H in there. That's dumb. Oy. Soon after this, we, the audience, find out that Wrath is quite vision impaired, which explains why he wears the glasses. So I understand that. I wish they would have picked better glasses. Makes him look like the Terminator. So yeah, it makes sense that he's wearing the glasses, but it is kind of weird to see that with the glasses on because he does it. He just butt naked with the glasses on. And I'm like, damn. Butch comes to Beth's house again. This is the same night. Basically invites himself into her home and grills her about where her injuries came from. That is when she finally tells him that she was attacked by a man who attempted to assault her, and she gives a description of him. And this description is precise enough that Butch is able to hone in who the exact person is because someone had called the police recently of that description claiming that he was attacked by a random person. Probably not a woman. He's not going to admit that. But he's in the hospital getting his nose set. We would find out eventually that this man's name, to continue with the pattern of stupid names, his name is Billy Riddle. Billy Riddle. Sound like a that robbed banks in the 1920s. But after putting two and two together, Butch goes to pay Billy a visit and breaks his nose again. That scene was pretty funny, particularly when he's on the floor already and talking shit, and then he just smushes his nose into the floor. Back home, Wrath appears at Beth's house like a bad omen floating in the darkness, and she is terrified of this sunglass dark warrior coming through her house, but in the morning she just assumes it was a dream. Wrath does the proper ritual to accept Beth as his ward, which is basically him getting naked, takes his glasses off, kneels on some cheap party glass diamonds, and prays to a vampire goddess by the name of the Scribe Virgin. And yeah, so he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take that shit on. The next day, we're back to Beth, and she finds out from Jose that Billy has been let out because his lawyers were able to get him out on bond after Butch broke his nose again. And so now he's just free to wreak havoc. That's great. And Billy, despite being only 18, has a bit of a history of being a menace. Jose ends up telling her that despite having nothing on his adult record, he's only 18. So in juvie, he was brought in for a lot of crimes, including sexual crimes, assault of all types. He is also apparently a member of a local martial arts dojo that happens to be run by a bunch of the white vampires, which are called the Lessers. Subtle. She's not great at naming things in general. So anyway, the episode ends with Wrath coming to Beth's house again. This time she's conscious enough to recognize that he's there, but he also uses some red smoke stuff to put her more at ease. And then they for 10 minutes. Not to ruin the vibe, but maybe this is what I was feeling about the other scene. This is like a straight up non-con fantasy, but this is assault. He's like, oh, I didn't mean to get to you. I just wanted to put your mind at ease. And now you're like, hey, can I give you my And he's like, okay. He says it's not supposed to enslave her mind. It's supposed to calm it. But something tells me that without the red smoke, I don't think she would want to the random dark omen appearing in her back porch. Again, I don't think that this story or this movie or show, whatever, is aware, like self-aware. It's just like, yeah, get to eating some coochie for 6 minutes. Let's go. But they dubiously into the credits, and that's the end of episode 1. No build up, nothing, just going at it. Episode 2. There is a kind of bookish, smart vampire by the name of Havers who is trying to figure out a way that vampires don't have to feed from other vampires to maintain sustenance. We will learn much later that he had a woman that he loved, a vampire that he loved, who has passed, and he no longer wants to feed from another female vampire. He wants to figure out a way to completely take that part of his sustenance out and just use blood transfusions. And he's trying to figure out, is there a mixture of human blood and vampire blood that can make that work? Like, what's happening? His sister, Marissa, is actually the vampire that Wrath drinks from. They've had this kind of relationship for like 400 years or some shit like that, but they've never been romantically involved. That was never their relationship, despite, I think, her wanting it to be. But Havers really wants her away from the Brotherhood because they are warriors and she is part of the upper echelon and shouldn't be canoodling with such brutes. You know, she's a part of the upper echelon because she is British. They're British. That's how you know. I don't know how they ended up in Boston, but okay. So the head white vampire, I don't catch his name. I don't know if they ever say it. He has been doing a little operation in which he picks up sex workers that are tricking at a steel mill. What is this? But he picks them up to kill them and use them as bait to make vampires. I'm a little confused. Watching this show again doesn't help me so far, but go off. Eventually, it does get around to local police that sex workers are missing. And when they come upon the crime scenes of the sex workers dead, they will see those ninja throwing stars. The next morning, from them fucking it up, banging genitalia. Beth seems cool with it. She's cool with the breaking and entering and dubious circumstances, but okay. He says his name. She's like, oh, hey, Wrath. That's an interesting name, Wrath. And he wants to know who attacked her in the alleyway. And he leaves to go him up. While getting dressed, however, she notices his throwing stars, but doesn't say anything or ask any questions. He gives her his number and address for them to meet tomorrow, and he says he will explain everything. Wrath goes out and patrols to kill lessers throughout the city, throughout the night, and finds the vampire that was drinking from the sex worker dead. And he brings his body back to his parents, I guess. This is very confusing for a few reasons. One, as I understand it, the lessers, as we'll find out much later, the lessers create vampires by turning them vampires from humans. Why he didn't just turn the sex worker into a vampire, I don't know. Oh, maybe that was just a normal vampire, not a vampire that he was trying to turn into a lesser vampire. Maybe he was just using the sex worker as bait to kill regular vampires. That's dumb. He was using the sex worker as bait to kill regular vampires because they had war. Okay, stupid. He could have turned her into a vampire, but whatever. So yeah, they find his body and they bring his body back home to his parents and they crying and shit. It's like, oh my God, another vampire fallen to the war. The cops call Beth and tell her about the sex worker's death. She sees the photos and notes that sadly she actually recognizes this woman. It's a girl that grew up with her in the system. They were at the same foster care facilities here and there. Butch then asks her to dinner, which she initially declines, not wanting to go on a date with him because he obviously is interested in her romantically. She then thanks him for sending a vice officer to her home, though he was very scary. She thinks that Wrath was an officer sent to her home for protection. Huh? And then Butch goes, huh? I was like, yeah, me and you the same going, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, that wasn't a police officer you sent to my house to protect me? Oh, that's strange. Never mind. Bitch, would that scenario have been better? The police send a vice officer to your home meant to protect you, hits you with red pheromone smoke, and on the couch? Bitch, what? After realizing the number and address he gave is a bit sketch and possibly combining along with the ninja throwing star thing, she decides not to meet up with Wrath and instead decides to go to dinner with Butch instead, I guess, to talk over clues or whatnot. They go to dinner, after which Butch leans in for a kiss, which Wrath sees and gets possessive and jealous. And he's like, oh, she's mine. But no need, because honestly, she's like, you a good kisser. I'm just not into you. It's just a nah for me, dog. And he's like, well, damn, I tried. And you're like, yeah, you know, you'll find somebody. So he takes her back home and Butch ends up seeing Wrath outside of her home, trespassing as he understands it, which he is doing, and tries to arrest him, frisks him down, finds a bunch of his weapons, including the throwing stars, cash. He roughs him up a little bit, and Beth is like, no, stop. As he's getting put in the car, he turns to Beth and he's like, your father sent me. And again, she doesn't know who her father is, so she's like, what the f? So he takes him down to the station in his car, and once he gets him out, Wrath breaks the cuffs and tries to break his neck, like holding him up like, you bitch, ass. Beth gets there soon after, on foot. How close is this f***ing station? And she's able to demand him to stop choking her friend out. Leave. She demands that he explain himself, but instead he decides to explain other things. He tells her of the signs that she has told no one else. Her teeth getting sore, her getting tired, her appetite ravenously rising, the way her eyes seem to be stinging in the sun these days. He says he will explain it if she comes with him. During their travels back to a mysterious place, he gets jealous. He's like, who's the cop to you? You. There's some melodramatics before they get to his house where she meets his butler, Fritz. She then meets Rage while he's in the middle of stitching up his own arm after a battle from the Lessers. Wrath will tell her that this home was originally her father's. So it makes sense that she's a bit despondent upon realizing that the father that she never knew was very wealthy and she had to grow up in foster care without knowing who this man was. But Wrath would say he had a bunch of great attributes, loved her a lot, kept an eye out for her, watched her as she grew up, was so proud of her, but also he's dead. And being that she was his daughter, this home and all his wealth is also attributed to her. Wrath tells her that her father stayed away because he hoped she would never have to know him and know what he was. Maybe she wouldn't undergo the change because she's half human, but ultimately Darius was a vampire like him. She then slaps him in the face because she's like, whoa, this is some really up intricate role play you're doing here. You bring me all the way down here to tell me you're a vampire? What is this bullshit? You say my dead father, who I've never known, use that as trauma for your D&D kink play? You. But eventually she ends up giving up on the concept of leaving because her transformation is making her very tired. So he carries her back to the home, and when he tells her that she will soon turn into a vampire herself and she will need the blood of a vampire to survive the change, he promises to be that vampire. And she goes to bed hoping that this is all but a dream. Episode 3. This episode starts in like the 1690s where we see a man who is supposed to be young Wrath, who is the same age, but a different actor as current Wrath. And we see that the first vampire to give him blood was Marissa, and they have been bound together ever since. However, like I said, they had never had a romantic connection between them, much to her disappointment. Back to the present, cops aren't finding any leads on who's been killing sex workers in the area, and the only clue they have is a bullet that was left at the scene a few times that had a weird liquid inside of them, but we can't get any more information than that, apparently. Eventually, after some arguments and some back and forth and making up and blah, 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 Wrath and Beth start again. But he is restraining himself because, one, he wasn't supposed to be his dead friend's daughter anyway. I'm sure that wasn't originally a part of the deal. It's too late considering he's the one that doused her with Omega heat fog or whatever the 2, because he wants to bite her really, really bad. He wants to bite her so bad. To the extent that he butt naked flops off of the bed mid-coitus and screams at her to get the back. He's so good at scare him a little bit. So good he gotta pace a little bit. Head on his hands looking down like, damn. I will say, as far as sex scenes go in Passionflix'S things, except for the wig and the glasses, it was starting to give a little bit. But again, the thing is, the wig and the glasses are still there, so it's kind of distracting. But he hiked that leg up like, I was like, oh, it's not it's Passionflix'S. Also, I'm pretty sure I saw some shaft. because I looked for it. But it do be looking at you all. Whenever I see Shaft in a place that I didn't expect to see Shaft, it always feels so aggressive. Like, it's a stick up. If it's real, congratulations. I mean, bad, naughty show, bad. You're supposed to be passionate, not or whatever. The wig and the glasses always suck you out of it, even if you're almost there. The big ass brings me back in, though. Anyway, he's like, get away, and instead he calls Marissa in to feed from her. Meanwhile, Fritz drives Beth back home, during which he tells more stories about how her father really cared about her and was very proud of her, was keeping track of her. Her mother was a human that he loved, but they broke up when I guess she found out that he was a vampire. You know, it's kind of a big deal. I mean, seems like a pretty big secret to keep from somebody. But they would separate him. She would only reach back out after she realized she was pregnant with something, a creature of some sort, and eventually she would die in labor. When she gets back home, they have Torment come in to look after her this night. He seems nice while he's there. They talk a bit more about the logistics of like matehood. Apparently, Wrath has imparted a smell upon her that other male vampires can smell that is kind of like a warning sign. He is proverbially pissed on her. Everybody stay away. She my mate, or as they call in this world, a shellin. Torment says that he has a shellin and he's actually in love with his shellin. They are together, they are married, but that's not necessarily always the case. Some people take on a shellin purely for blood, like being partners in that way, and some take on more than one. All the other brothers don't have a singular person I guess they are tied to, which is good because what are we gonna do for the other box? She then asks whether or not Wrath has another shellin, which he declines to answer, saying that that's probably something that y'all should talk about. Incidentally, as he is drinking Marissa's blood, she sees like visions of him Beth, and that's when she knows like I don't know if she can like read his mind while this is happening. After this, she's pretty sure that he is invested in this halfling, to which she says, I'm not going to hold you to the covenant between us because obviously you want this halfling, so I shall free you from it. Back in the human world, Eternal Affairs is looking into, you know, Butch's police brutality and assault to the extent that they suspend him without pay as they do the investigation. So instead of taking his vacation, he decides to do more investigations just as a guy, so probably legally, no. He ends up going to a dojo after he finds out that the throwing star seems to be from local martial arts studios. That's where he sees Head Lesser Vampire. Marissa meets with her brother and he shares that he's still working on the blood transfusion, trying to figure out how to make that work because again, he doesn't want to drink from another female vampire. And honestly, she's like, yeah, I'm kind of there too. I don't want to drink from another male vampire, so if you get that to work, let me know. Havers, again, doesn't like the Brotherhood. He also gets the sense that Wrath was too rough with her because he sees a bruise on her neck from where he was drinking her blood. But she's like, it doesn't matter anyway because it's over. But despite Haver's assertions that his research is going well, it's not going well. Butch tries to stop Beth from going to see Wrath because he suspects him of being the person that's been killing the sex workers because of the ninja star. But she says it's because you don't understand the entire story. I assume it's the vampirism component. Unconventional. I don't think he would have saw it coming. And so she goes to see Wrath for a dinner at the home that he asked her to come to, I guess in an attempt at romance. But the entire time he's quite insufferable. It starts off with him getting kind of dressed. He put his hair in a ponytail. He changes his clothes into other black clothes. And he just seems a bit nervous, which is wild because you've already been inside her at least twice. He ends up having an argument with Torment right before this dinner, which was kind of all over the place. I think the gist of it is that Torment has essentially a wife. He fell in love with the shellin, and Wrath, who is also falling in love with someone, is like, I ain't like you. Ew, you like your wife? Whip bitch, boy. Look at this in love and being loved, ass bitch, loser. But when he sees Beth, it's obvious that his frustrations is just to ignore the obvious, which is that he's but he's quite off-putting regardless when she arrives. But mind you, she is here because he asked for her to come over and do this date, which is unnecessary. Your job is to just take care of her. You don't have to do the pleasantries of 4-course meal or whatever. This scene is them bickering about a lot of things. Honestly, I don't care to talk about each of them. So I'll just say they bicker about a bunch of shit, most of which is dumb. And eventually they calm down. And that's when she learns about the vampire war. It's a big lore drop. Basically, the vampires, like the dark vampires, are made by the goddess, the great scribe virgin. And this is a being that isn't just like this vague spiritual entity. They can go visit her. They can see this bitch. Like they can literally pray and ask for her presence or ask to be in her presence. But there is another presence called the Omega. And this entity, I guess, is jealous of the great scribe virgin and her ability to make vampires. So instead, they make vampires, but they can't make them from nothing. They have to make them from humans. And that's where you get the white vampires from, who are referred to as the Lessers. They are an entire coalition of people that hate regular vampires, I guess. And I guess there are more of the Lessers than there are purebred vampires, making the purebred vampires a persecuted minority. These are the words they use. The Lessers now have their own society completely devoted to fighting vampires. And so the vampires made soldiers. They like bred in the strongest people to create the strongest soldiers, which are referred to as the Black Dagger Brotherhood. Think of them as like super vampires. You know, super vampires, warriors, soldiers. More logistics about vampirism. She asks if she'll be able to go out into the sun, and he says, I don't know, you're half human, so maybe not. But if you can't, you will blister and eventually incinerate. They go back and forth about each of them being jealous at the concept of the other feeding from another person. She says, well, you're the vampire king. I assume you're busy, so I imagined I would have to feed from someone else at some point. And he's like, no. Like, sure, yeah, I guess so, whatever. But I don't want you to feed from anybody. You feed from me. And then she learns a bit about Marissa, the female vampire that he's been feeding from for like 400 years, but that had never gone sexual or romantic. But yeah, he's like, I can't be with you. But the thought of you feeding from another man or another man feeding from you, it makes me want to stab something. I don't know. Big man grumble. And much like most of these episodes, it ends with a very long sex scene. They make out. He goes hot and cold about like, yeah, I want to do this, but I can't because like you're my duty. I shouldn't be you. You should be with somebody else. At some point, she asks to see his eyes. Of all the context they could have used something with a bigger iris. They didn't have to do that. This is when he says that he was born visually impaired, but his vision got progressively worse after the vampirism, after the change, which is weird because I would think that becoming a vampire makes things better usually in vampire supernatural stuff. So it was like, okay, but it's getting progressively worse and probably will get worse throughout his life. But he can see some things. He says like what he sees when he sees her, like he's like, you're so beautiful. And then he's like breathing and shit. And it's a really long time to just lead up to him eating her coochie on the couch. They let a couch. It was another scene that would have been hot if I didn't keep getting distracted by the wig. The wig is very distracting, but I like the pace. We were going pace wise. He is very attractive in that kind of disconcerting, like uncanny valley type of way. But you know, he trying to bite her. I'm like, okay. And because it's a show, they have a little time to fill. So it's like, oh, soft touches, like, But also, the wig. But yeah, that's the first 3 episodes. I'll come back in a few days to talk about the rest of the episodes because the season gets really dumb. It's already pretty dumb, but it gets very dumb very quickly. And again, if I watched it, it's your problem now too, baby. If you like this video, feel free to like this video. Follow me on my social media, Instagram and Bluesky, both of which are KennieJD. Watch my other videos. I have so many. I talk a lot. I have a lot of things to say and you can partake in it if you would so like. And I'm going to end this now before my allergies kick in because I can feel it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.